Yes, it was. Lovely. Lovely. Do you see the talent that we have? It's amazing. Roderick, Reggie, absolutely gorgeous. Gorgeous, gorgeous. Thank you. See, your moms drag you to church. You get like music, elevation. Oh, I'm really happy to be here, and happy Mother's Day, right? Happy Mother's Day. Now, many of us know the history of this holiday. It was started by Anna Jarvis in 1907. She wanted to commemorate her mom. And then in 1914, it became a national holiday. But did you know, back in the Middle Ages, there was such a thing called Mothering Sunday in Britain. And what that was that the fourth Sunday of Lent, all the sons and daughters went back home to go to their mother church. And the mother church was the church that they grew up in, by home. So that was Mothering Sunday. Today, all across the world, everyone celebrates Mother's Day. Here in the US, it's the second Sunday of May, where other places, different times a year. For example, in the UK, they still follow that Lenten tradition. Mother's Day there is on the fourth Sunday of Lent, and it was March 27th this year. When I was over there, it was very confusing for me because I was like, what? In March? In April? Why is Mother's Day here? So I had to do a little searching myself to figure out why. Now, on Mother's Day, you know, there's many beliefs wrapped up in what does Mother's Day mean? Last year, I spoke about the archetype of the Great Mother, and that we have imbued all of these beliefs and expectations around motherhood, right? There's a deep psychological belief and expectations of what mom should be, and many of them aren't even real. Well, last year after my talk of the Great Mother, some folks came up to me and they were like, oh, we so appreciate your talk. Thank you for your authenticity, reminding us that not all of us have great mothers. The other half of the community were not really happy with me. And they weren't happy because in their minds they have an expectation of what Mother's Day needs to look like. They want it to be loved and elevated and celebrated. And this year, I even had a friend suggest that, why don't you talk about the divine feminine? That's in everyone, and then we can avoid any kind of, people who have trouble with mom. Maybe that'll be next year. So hold on. And the thing is, as a spiritual leader, it's an interesting challenge to be in service and in support to everyone. And sometimes with holidays, we all have our experiences and our expectations on what the holidays should look like from our past experiences. And sometimes it's really tough for a minister to please everyone, to get it right. And so where do I fall down on this? Hopefully not fall down, but where do I align with this? My truth is that I listen to spiritual guidance. Spiritual guidance tells me what I need to speak about, and then mine is to speak about it boldly. So that's the agreement that I have with Spirit. So, gentlemen, today I'm going to be speaking to the women because we're going to be talking about motherhood. But that doesn't mean you get to check out. Let's be clear on that. What it means is you get to listen to it from a different perspective, from the perspective of how would these things support the women in my life? With me? And for the women, if I strike a sentiment and you really resonate with it, shout out an amen anytime you want. All right. So this Mother's Day, what I'm called to speak about is the Supermom syndrome that is part of our society. But before we do that, what I want to do is I want to look at defining the word mother. The M-O-T-H seems to be cut off from that display. Is it cut off on yours? Yes, it is. Okay, so the dictionary has 3 definitions for mother. The first one is a noun, and then there are 2 verbs. The first as a noun is a woman in relation to her child or children. The second one as the first verb is give birth to. Now, both of those definitions seem quite simple enough, right? Mother is a biological function, someone who gives birth to a child, or a relational function in where a woman has a relationship to her child, whether it's adopted, surrogate, or birthed. But it's the second definition of the verb there that really can cause us some issues and concerns. The definition is to bring up a child with care and affection. With care and affection. And that's where it gets dicey, my friends. It gets dicey because there's no formula. What's enough care and affection? What does it look like, right? And then you have different children with different needs, and then you have moms with different skill sets. And the perception of care and affection will also differ between cultures, countries, ethnicities, and even time periods. You know, it wasn't until the late 1900s that the appropriate care up until that point meant if a child misbehaved, corporal punishment was what you did to show that you cared about your child. That's a new change, pretty recent in the history of humans. So when we look at what a mother is and what a good mother is, be aware that we're using the lens, our perception, to make that determination. Now, I want to give you a little bit of like then and now. So mothering and keeping the home was a full-time job until the economic shift happened in the 1970s. And according to the Economic Policy Institute, there was a great shift in risk. And it was called the Great Risk Shift. And basically, what that meant is there was a rise in the family income's volatility, right? It was unstable. And what it documented was that there was a shift of economic risk from government and employers to workers and families. What does that mean? It means dwindling health coverage. You and I both know one catastrophic health event can ruin a family financially. It was a shift of employers not taking care of workers into retirement and beyond anymore. It really became based on families and the individual's responsibilities. And this was a huge shift for us culturally. It was a shift from moms being at home with their snacks and conversations for kids when they got home from school to latchkey kids taking care of themselves and letting themselves in at home because both parents were forced to work. And then there's another piece to this, the divorce rates. Right around 1970, divorce rates skyrocketed because for the first time ever, we could say irreconcilable differences as a reason for the divorce. Now, for those who are feminists and want to throw something at me, please don't. Just wait a minute. What I'm speaking about is women who wanted careers always were there, right? I'm a career woman. I've known that I wanted to be a career woman from however tall, right? So there have always been women in our society that wanted careers. What I'm talking about is that because of this economic shift, it was no longer viable for women who wanted to be moms at home with their children. That was no longer an option on the average. With me now? Okay. So if these women wanted to be a mom, guess what? They did it while they were working full-time, still believing that they had to be the perfect mom and the perfect wife. And then we wonder why so many women were exhausted. So that brings us to the term of Supermom. Do you remember this advertisement? It was for Angelique perfume, right? It was da-da, da-da, I can bring home the bacon, da-da, da-da, fry it up in a pan, da-da, da-da, and never, never let you forget you're a man. Why? 'Cause I'm a woman, right? That's right, Supermom, never got tired, always ready to please her man, while working a full-time job, taking all the things that she used to do as a stay-at-home mom. So you know, I'm saying this ad was written by a guy. And I'm right, by the way, I checked it out. According to New York Times writer Lisa Sellen Davis in her article titled, "Is 2021? Why is Supermom still around?" writes that the traits of Supermom came to look like this. The archetypal female who is both a career woman and a housewife, and whose to-do list spans cooking, cleaning, parenting, earning a substantial paycheck, and satisfying her husband, all without a hair out of place. And then another layer happens with modern motherhood took on the model of intensive mothering. And that happened in the 80s, and yes, that's a real term. And it happened in the 80s when work life, the hours got a lot longer. And so women were feeling exceedingly not good enough, right? So then there was this intensity of, all right, what about the food? What are the food that the kids are eating? How much TV time are they getting? How much video game times are going on? Stranger danger. You see, women have been over-functioning, trying to perform all the roles and fill in the gaps. And let's face it, society doesn't have to look at what's not working when supermoms overwork themselves. Society doesn't have to be concerned with public policy or workplace reform when women are sacrificing themselves, their sanity, and their well-being. A founding editor of Ms. Magazine, Letty Cotton Pogrebin, said, "So many people benefit when women overproduce, when women feel judged and therefore have to become so performative, when women are made to compete with each other, whether it's for men, for jobs, or for the title of best mom." So here's my invitation to you and why we're having this conversation, because I'm inviting you to not overfunction. I'm inviting you women to not overfunction. You're more than a supermom. Working at work, then coming home, cooking, cleaning, and then now we've got this activity overload of the kids' activities that moms are like chauffeuring all the kids all over the place, right? That is not a soul-filled life. You deserve time to connect with yourself and to connect with spirit. And you know what the other part is? The other part is that what we do and how we do it are examples to others. Do you want our daughters and our granddaughters believing that they have to be over-functioning in their relationships, at work, and at home? Do we want our sons and grandsons to have expectations that they are entitled to only pull 30% of their weight in a relationship? Do we continue to use language that informs our children that if dad does any chores around home, he's helping us out? Dads and husbands aren't helping us out around the house because they are partners with us. They helped make the kids. They helped make the mess. They get to clean up as well. So what do we do about this? I'm hearing resonance. What if you were the catalyst to breaking the cycle of Supermom? What if you create a new way of partnership with whomever you're in a relation with? This is a call to break from the binary roles of women should do X and men must do Y. This is a call to release the belief that to be a great mom, you have to be a supermom. So this is a time to give ourselves and our children the value of being good enough. Children benefit from parents that make mistakes and fail. Did you know that? And according to an article written by Carla Naumburg, The Gift of the Good Enough Mother, she writes this: children need their mother or primary caretaker to fail them in tolerable ways on a regular basis so that they can learn to live in an imperfect world. Children need to learn in small ways every day that the world doesn't revolve around them, that their every request won't be honored, and that their behavior impacts people. This is a gift, my friend. This is a gift of cognitive development for the child, for them to be exposed to the realities of the external environment. And without these gifts of imperfection, they won't learn that it's okay to feel bored or annoyed or sad or disappointed. They won't learn time and again that life can be painful and frustrating, but guess what? They'll get through it. In short, building our children's resilience is the gift of the good enough mother. And what about us? Is there any gift to us about being imperfect? Looks that way to me. It's an opportunity for us to breathe, for us to let go of control, and to decide in this moment that we can trust that God's got us, and that our highest self is guiding us even in the errors and the mistakes. Even in the errors and mistakes. That this too is a divine moment unfolding. Our imperfection is a gift to let all the minutiae drop and really focus on what has meaning for us, what really matters to us. It gives us an opportunity to be fully present in the moment. You see, we aren't whirling around at a frenetic pace, so busy and overwhelmed that we miss connecting with spirit, with ourselves, and with our beloveds, be they in adult form or child form. But the greatest gift we give our children in being good enough moms is the ability for them to witness it's perfectly normal to be imperfect. It's perfectly normal to be imperfect. You see, it's normal to not be able to do it all. Because trying to do it all is unsustainable for life. In being good enough, we give people around us permission to embrace being in the question, being in the not knowing, being imperfect. Our imperfection will support them in allowing others to simply be. That it's okay for them to not do anything. What a concept. They can be okay with not doing something, with not being productive in that moment. Accepting our imperfections allows us to be more compassionate, right? When we make those errors, I'm like, oh, I did that. So when you do that, I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, you're human, right? It leaves room for Spirit to have its way with us and allows us to be authentic and walk in integrity. So I realize that I'm inviting you to do something that is completely against the dominant narrative. Our overfunctioning and burnout are celebrated in society. When we see a woman doing things beyond healthy standards, we elevate that person and go, look, that's success. And I remind you, God is in the breath. God is in the breath, waiting for you to slow down and remember the truth. You are divinity in skin. So today I'm inviting you to be a good enough mom. Take yourself off the cross. Come on down. Throw the Supermom cape away and embrace the gift of imperfection. Slow down. Breathe. One final thought. I know, moms, you're here because you love your kids and you want the best for them. But I'm here to remind you, you are simply a caregiver of a soul on a journey. That's your role. And their journey is to make mistakes, to learn and grow from them. Allow them. Allow them. Now, here in Unity, we know that motherhood comes in all manners of ways. So I'm going to honor a lot of women with a blessing that comes from Martha Creek. Do you guys remember Martha Creek? She did my installation. So she wrote this. To those who gave birth this year to their first child, we celebrate you. To those who lost a child this year, we mourn you. To those who are foster moms, mentor moms, spiritual moms, we need you. To those who have warm and close relationships with their children, we celebrate you. To those who have disappointment, heartache, and distance with your children, we sit with you. To those who lost their mothers this year, we grieve with you. To those who step-parent, we walk with you on these complex paths. To those who envisioned lavishing love on grandchildren, yet that dream is not to be, we grieve with you. To those who will have emptier nests in the upcoming year, we grieve and slightly rejoice with you. To those who wanted kids and weren't able to, forgive us when we say foolish things. We don't mean to make this harder than it is. And I'm adding 2 more. To those who mother fur babies, we honor your relationship. And to those dads who are both mother and father, we cherish you. Namaste.